So I'm just going to show you quickly how I edited my Milky Way shot from down in Wanaka. So just open up Lightroom here, have a look through some of these images. Now they all look pretty good. Just going to develop module here, have a closer look. Now let's add a little bit of clarity, so 20 will do. Boost up the saturation and vibrance so we can try and get the color balance how we want it. Now going a bit more on the purple side just to it'll kind of show you as this is kind of a foundation edit, because after stitching then we'll do the real editing. So zooming in, we're actually looking at the noise. Grain's quite nice for 10,000 ISO. Just a little bit of sharpening, noise reduction and color noise reduction. So it's before and after, before, after. Let's change it a little bit there. Now I just want to lift the shadows up in the water here because it's a bit dark. I want to see some of the details on the end panorama. Add another one in. Not quite as drastic, reduce saturation a bit. Now copy all those settings and we'll paste them over to the next images. So fourth, then find all the images of similar layout and then just sync them. Now I've just pasted into this one. We're going to delete these gradual filters. Paste them in, delete them again. And I'm going to sync with all these files as well. Now because we went back to the water, I'm going to need those gradual filters again. This time move them up. Synchronize again. So it's pretty much a good starting point. This is how I pretty much edit all my panoramas. Do a quick edit in Lightroom. Double check all the details in the Milky Way. It's looking pretty good. Now I use the Samyang 24mm f1.4 lens for all my nightscape shots. Brilliant piece of equipment. I definitely recommend them. I'm just going to export these to create the panorama. I've got a preset here where it's already set up. JPEGs, I don't bother with TIFFs because at the size we're going to be making this panorama, the 8-bit or 16-bit data will just be too much. And really you won't notice much of a difference when you're printing, say, a 1 meter print. Now once they're exported, I'm using Hugin to stitch all these images together. So I'll open them all up in Hugin, or Hugin. No idea how to pronounce it. Type in the focal length 24mm. And just let it do its job. And there we have it. Now, it looks pretty ugly, but don't worry, it's easy to fix. Let's click and drag it into place. And voila, looks great. Just crop it in a bit because when we export this as a TIFF, we don't want it to be too big. Just got to make sure that those horizon lines are as straight as possible. Easier to fix later in post if needed. Now the top stars will be stretched because that was very high in the sky, so I always crop those out if I don't need them. I'll create panorama. I'll export this as at 30,000 pixels wide. Because of the curving ends, I might need that data when I'm editing it, but just in case I'll leave it in. I get this error code, no idea why, but that doesn't seem to affect the stitching. Oh no, this might take a while. Go grab a coffee if you want. Now I'm opening the finished panorama in Photoshop. That's 1.18 gigs, so it's quite a big file. Let's just zoom in, have a look at how well it's stitched. There's a small glitch here, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. And the horizon's a little bit warped, but it's not too bad. Birds in the tree. I can't see any stitching areas in on the beach there. There's my other camera. And my camera bag. So that all looks pretty good to me. No double-ups of stars. Detail is really nice. And there it is. Now the first thing I'm going to do is crop it. I do like to work a lot of my images in the rule of thirds, but no one has to do it that way. It's just sometimes it just works for these panoramas to get the foreground in that first third. As you see here, that really fits quite nicely. I'm quite happy with that sort of composition. Now this is all I do in Photoshop, is a bit of contrast and brightness adjustments. I'll duplicate that layer so I can make it a bit more extreme. If I go too far, yeah, it just looks too much. So I'll group those so you can see before and after. And I use this system of selecting the color range. You can see there if I click and drag, it'll select multiple colors as a selection. But what I'm going to do is I want to mask out these trees from the contrast adjustments that I've just done. Now inverse the selection and then create a mask. Now you'll see that has masked out those trees quite well. Now do another selection, this time with the darker parts of the trees. And I'll just find a way to delete that from the mask. There we go. So now most of that effect is only in the sky areas and not in the trees. So there's highlights from the light on those tips of the trees up there. Now let's create another mask. on the bottom here. And it's just going to erase out the rest of the, fine tune the selection on the top of the sky there. You can see there that there's grey areas that the selection has picked out. Just with a broad brush and just erase that from the mask. I'm just going to reduce the highlights in the Milky Way, or invert that mask, and then just brush it back in with a soft brush. Just reduce the opacity of that brush so it's not so important. And just brush in where it looks just a bit too bright, even on these lights in the horizon. Just anywhere that looks too bright, not that bit. You can just feather that selection. What this feather does is it just makes the edges of the brush on the mask a lot softer. There we go, that's not how I want it. Now I'm pretty happy with that result. Go a bit more, another contrast layer. And save it. As a Photoshop file. Now that I've saved it, I want to retouch out the parts that I don't want. Got my second camera here and my bag on the beach. Just create a new layer, name that retouch. Zoom in on this area. Now the bag's going to be easy, just using the clone tool. Find a relative area that's similar. Just brush that in. Get a little bit from there. Now this one's going to be trickier because we got reflection in there. But again, find a place in the image that is very similar. And just brush it in. And you can see here there's lines there from my contrast layer masking, but we can easily repair that. Now for this part here, I'm just going to copy this section. Now what we need to do is delete that part. So let's use a soft brush throughout this whole area. Now a lot of this is just trial and error. But it's pretty easy to remove parts that you don't need in the image. That looks pretty good to me. Alright. Let's before, after. Group those, so that's how it looks now, and that's how it looked before. Save that. So import it. So as a whole, it's looking pretty good. We're now 20,000 by 9,000 pixels, which is round about how I like it. But now we're going to tweak the colours a bit and get rid of a little bit of the noise here in the foreground. Not quite a huge fan of the purple, but again that's what happens with the original white balance that I had. Can I go a bit more to the blue side? This way a little bit greener. Because it needs a neutral foreground colour. I'm pretty happy with that. Now for down here, just do a bit of a gradual filter. I'll just play around with that and see what it does. Oh, a little bit darker, a little bit of colour. See the clarity. So when I see a bit of the patterns in here of the stones on the ground, it kind of gets slightly rid of that purple hue of the noise. I'm also going to play a little bit with the curves on here because I do like to kind of neutralise the blacks a bit, bring them up a bit. I've actually got a preset here which will adjust the blacks and adjust the highlights. 100%, it's all looking pretty good. Now, that's probably a bit too extreme, so I'm going to turn it down a bit. I always like to add a little bit of clarity at this point. Also use a mask like this and get more clarity. And it makes the stars pop a little bit more. Let's reduce those highlights a little bit. Let's brush a little bit of that out with the trees. Do a bit of a softer brush. Kind of don't want to go over the trees because then it will get a bit too obvious and we get a bit of haloing. Let's look at that. That looks pretty good to me. There's still a little bit of purple in the corners down here. Let's add another mask and just desaturate that a little bit. Maybe just add some colour to it as well, to match the sky. That's more like it. I kind of want to reduce the saturation of the oranges a little bit, so we'll go down to here and not too much because we still want a bit of colour. And this is also, this part of the Milky Way is a bit bright for my liking. So we'll just use a small brush. Untick auto mask. Just brush in there. Let's reduce the exposure a little bit. And the highlights. Alright, so before. After. And there you have it, the Wanaka panorama.